Hello everybody and welcome to today's special podcast with Stefano Maifreni, where we'll be talking about navigating growth, expert insight on scaling your business. Stefano has provided B2B fractional chief commercial and chief operating officer services to British and Italian startups and also SMEs through his business Accelerate since 2014. He's currently serving as COO at a small yet forward-looking and fast-growing technology manufacturer. Before that, Stefano worked in strategy and product management. He has an executive MBA from the London Business School. Thank you for coming in today, Stefano.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So as I was saying, today we're going to focus mainly on navigating growth, especially around expert insights into scaling a business. That's why we invited you today.
Thank you.
So what I thought we'd do for today's session was break it down to 3 sections. The first section being on the initial stages and validation of an idea. Then we can talk about the growth and scaling of that business. And finally ending on the future outlook and advice.
Perfect.
So what I thought I'd do, the first question I kind of want to ask is, how does one validate an initial business idea before moving forward?
In that case, you are starting basically from a blank canvas, and in these cases, I think you need something that helps you structuring your thoughts, but is not very prescriptive. And I like to use a framework called the 7 domains road test. Was devised by John Mullins, who incidentally was one of the professors at the London Business School while I attended the MBA. Yes. And it's basically about 3 macro domains and their subdomains, which are like market, industry, and team. And for market and industry, there is the macro level and the micro level. Okay. So without getting too much into the details, but the market is all about the demand. And the macro level is what we usually refer to with number of potential customers and size, growth, so the classical KPIs and indicators. Industry is actually all about the supply. So it's competitors, is how fierce the competition is, do the buyers have a lot of power, or maybe that is swinging between the buyers and the suppliers and so on. But these are kind of really high level view. What counts more to me are the micro level. And for example, for the micro level of the marketing domain, it's really about the attractiveness of the segment you are targeting. So is that segment, are you solving a specific problem for that segment? Are you solving, addressing a pain point for those people or businesses? How big is that segment? Is that growing? And that tells you if your products can get traction. For the industry, at the micro level, you have not what makes you unique. Do you have IP? Do you have something that is difficult to replicate? And this tells you how your business model can support you in the long term. So is a business model that naturally generates cash, or you need a continuous injection of cash, especially at the beginning? So that really, really helps. And probably the most important of all is the team domain, which is about the founders, of course, the initial team. Are the founders all aligned? Do they have the same vision? Maybe Ben wants to conquer the world and Stefano wants a lifestyle business and exit as soon as possible.
Of course.
How much they are connected to the supply chain and can they really deliver? And this is a framework. Of course, you can get as deep as you want. I think it's important, especially if you're starting, to show to investors that you went through this kind of thought process. But it's still a framework, right? I think I think it's very important to get out to the real world. And I don't know if you know how Innocent Drinks or Nike started, or Airbnb. They all tested with the specific audience. I think the Innocent Drinks founders went to a festival with their smoothies and 2 large bins, one with written yes on it, the other with no, and they asked people, should we leave our job and do this instead?
Okay,
and they got an overwhelming yes in response. So that showed that actually the smoothies were liked by a certain type of audience.
I see. So listen to the market before.
Exactly. So test it, get traction. Same with Airbnb, right? They took the opportunity of an event. This is quite public domain, but you know, it's so they created designed website to advertise their air mattresses, and so that's how it started. They got traction and so on. Same with Nike, for example. It's a bit dated, but they launched when the macro domain of the market wasn't really in favor of yet another pair of sneakers, but they started by selling Onitsuka Tigers from the trunks of their car to long distance runners, and so they wanted to address that segment. They got a lot of feedback, and so they could basically design the first pair of Nike shoes. So I think that's important. Or if you are a B2B SaaS, that is very common today, get out, talk to potential customer, create a number of early adopters, get feedback, adjust, create a prototype as soon as you can, and so you can really use that to taste the waters. And
that kind of goes on to our next question about the key indicators that you should look to determine if your idea has market potential. So let's say if I was starting a business, let's just use smoothies, for example. You've got major competition from Innocent, Naked, these amazing other drinks. What key indicators should I look for to see if, okay, have I actually got a good idea or not?
Sure. I think there is again, all the things I mentioned might have some indicators and KPIs that kind of quantify them. And of course, there is a lot to say about the market, but I would say go down to the specific segment you are addressing. So indicators could be more, let's say, anecdotal in terms of, okay, I have these pain points and that I want to solve. And by the way, this is the size of the segment. This is the growth of the segment. This is distribution, and therefore I'm launching first in this area of London. And you show you have traction. I think that's the most important thing, because let's face it, if you today looked at the stock market, inflation, interest rates, you would never launch a startup. Like it sounds discouraging sometimes. But if you scratch the surface and go down and you really find, I think it's all about solving a problem for someone.
Find that main pain points.
Exactly. Otherwise, you don't have a product to me.
Of course,
and showing that you have potential in that segment. It doesn't matter what somehow happens around. That tells you how difficult it will be maybe to raise money later on and so on, but it doesn't tell you much about the core of what you're about to do.
And that kind of goes into the next question as well. It's going very methodically, and then we talk about some of the bigger challenges that someone would be facing. Let's say if I wanted to do a startup now, like you said, with inflation, with all the financial problems and the economics, what other challenges do you think are out there for some starting a business today?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk. I can give you maybe a twofold answer. One is about my business, but it's a consulting business, so it's a different type, professional services. And of course, you have I had all those challenges of establishing the business without knowing really all the admin part of it. Gaining credibility, keeping momentum. So this is kind of obvious. I think you need to take into account that you will have some sleepless nights about cash flow, about customers not paying. And I must confess, at some point, I had £2 on my business account. So I couldn't afford a tube ride, right? But that was somehow kind of managed and part of the forecast. But yet, it wasn't easy. But these are all kind of business-related challenges. The one thing I didn't expect, it's the feeling of loneliness you can have as a founder. It's you out there with your business trying to grow. It's difficult to think about something else. You go to bed thinking about your business, you wake up thinking about your business, and the feeling that it's difficult to get understood. Not even your partner maybe can really get into that. So that's one thing to take into account, and to also to manage your stakeholders while you are doing this.
And you talk about kind of that loneliness aspect, because was it just yourself as a sole founder, or did you have co-founders?
Yes.
So was it more of a partnership? It was a sole project.
Yes. Then expanded a bit. We are a few associates with mutual referrals. We like to work independently, but not on our own. But even if it's two founders, there is still that idea to me. I saw this happening, of being out in the cold, trying to do something. But apart from this, I would say the other things I've seen is there is a theme about the chemistry between the co-founders. I mentioned the team domain earlier, but there also it's also important to define from the outset what the decision-making process would be. I know I met two founders. Let's say we have exactly 50% of a company. We do not agree on something. There's not even legal way to solve it. And so I think one of the things that I warmly recommend is to write a shareholders agreement. I joke, it's like a constitution. You write it when you're sober, to use it when you're drunk. If nothing happens, you don't really need it. But just in case, everything is coded there, and clearly define the roles. Who is the CEO? Who is maybe the COO, the CTO, define, and it's difficult, because especially when you start, maybe we are friends with a lot of enthusiasm, things can only go well, but then something happens, you don't know how to resolve it, how to solve it, and maybe you have also friendship at stake. So that's very important. The other thing I've seen, especially in the tech world, is falling in love with your product. And basically keeping, you keep investing in the product, because that features has a very low, if not zero, incremental costs, but is really something that interests your customers. So and so that you focus on your product and maybe invest more money into that, while you should maybe go out and see if you have traction with the core, with an MVP.
I see. And almost like love makes you blind. Is
that
kind of what you're getting at?
Exactly.
Yes, you think you've got the best product in the world.
And you keep doing that, but at some point you're talking to yourself and not to the customers.
I see. Not getting that market customer feedback.
And risk to maybe increase your cost base, or maybe divert the tiny budget you have at your disposal to invest more on the product, while you might have to invest in a marketing campaign and see if that works, and what kind of feedback you could.
I see. You spend millions on your product, then when it goes to market, already in the market, people don't need any of these extra costs that you just put on.
Exactly. And there are another couple of things really. One is about know your customers. There's a recurring theme to me, because especially if you are a tech startup, you are under pressure to deliver, and maybe to access your platform and to get billed, you only need my username, email address, and a few other details. But if you don't get anything else, at some point maybe you grow and you don't know who your customer base is. You don't know what. Maybe you're stronger in a segment, in an industry, in a country, in a geography. You don't know. And so you have this huge effort then to kind of go there and enhance your data, while that knowing your customer could be really a gold mine of data for decisions later on. And of course, the other thing, especially if you are alone, seek help, delegate. So you are not the expert of everything, and there are businesses doing accounting, doing any sort of things, marketing. So you can't.
You don't have to know everything. You
design your website and do your bookkeeping, and because you should focus on your core business. So I think these are the challenges, especially when you start and you have so much energy, and you can just your time kind of expands. But that might take a toll in the long term.
No, definitely. Kind of focusing on those early stages, would you say that you would advise early founders and startups to go get consulting early on from someone like yourself, to be like, look, this is what we want to do, we need your advice, because everything you're telling me right now is something I believe someone from a startup probably should be hearing on their journey, so they don't make those challenges at a later date?
Yeah. I wasn't really pitching my services, but
Good.
but I think when you start, you need to have. Depends where you are in your journey, right? When you start, it's all about, to me at least, is having a product or a minimum viable product and getting feedback. So it's about going to market, yeah, having a direction, having a strategy without overthinking it, yeah.
Good.
And usually the founders are very strong in what they do, yeah. So I don't feel I can teach anyone anything about their business, but maybe about running their business, which is a different thing. And so yes, of course, seek help, but start with the building blocks. So, for example, in my case, I waited too long to have someone else doing my bookkeeping.
Oh, you're doing it all yourself?
Yeah, I used to do it. It's a very simple business in my case, right? But I know of founders who can't let it go. Yeah, but that's not. Now, if you are you want to do some marketing. Marketing especially is a discipline which is kind of sliced in micro specialties, and each of those has people very expert of it. So you can't do anything. Maybe you should spend more time coordinating them, or maybe that's the point, asking someone external to coordinate them and have that broader view. So I think and at the beginning it's about the same thing that becomes delegation once you have a team. It's the same kind of feeling that this is what should I let go?
Like part ego, part separate.
Yes.
And actually, you talk about that at the start. Let's say if I started Ben's Smoothies, quite innocent. How would you advise me to go about building a team? Like you said, it was very much focusing on someone with good marketing expertise, someone that can do my bookkeeping. But how do you build a team? What should you look for?
The key thing to me is let me step back one moment. So when you start, you basically need to do everything. And it's nice to have people who can do, who are kind of all-rounders. Yeah. But at the same time, a common trap is, Stefano is a nice guy. He knows his stuff. Yeah, come on board. There is a lot to do. I think that might lead later on to some friction, because I'm always adamant to find first what you need, and then find the people for the roles, not the roles for the people. And of course, then
clearly define roles.
Exactly. Then you need to find all-rounders who can do more, but at least they have that role. So when there are other people, maybe other expertise, there are no friction. But I was doing also that. So it's and also do not inflate the job titles.
Yeah.
So start with head of maybe. Don't get straight to chief, because later on, first you could have that, could be a leverage to promote people internally, or maybe you can find someone from the outside and you don't have to demote formally anyone. But
it's easier to promote than it is to demote.
Yeah, exactly. But in general, I think when you start, of course you are not. No, they join you because of the vision that you have. So you need to kind of sell that vision also to your candidates.
Yep.
You need to show how there's potential to shape things, to build something important. And for these, you need, of course, I would say, you always look at three things when you hire people: experience, potential, and attitude.
Yep.
In this case, you might look at experience, and you need to have functional experience, but if you are doing really something unique, you might not have, it might not be easy to find that specific experience. So you should maybe weight a bit more potential and attitude. So you have people who can, with entrepreneurial spirit, they want to learn, the change, embracing change is not a problem. Actually, maybe they are
advocating the change.
Yeah, exactly, and driving change.
I see. So when you first bring them to business, sit them down, like, look, these are experience, this is your skills, this is what we want your job to look like, and clearly defining those almost KPIs. Tasks. Yes, and that, at the beginning, I appreciate it's very difficult to strike that balance between there's a lot to do, but I need to define a role
and I don't have much money to hire 10 people. But you need to strike that balance.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So we've spent a good amount of time on initial stage and validation. I reckon moving on now to growth and scaling. So I was wondering if you can share some strategies from your own company or other companies that are crucial in scaling a business.
I might give you a bit of a biased answer here with a kind of CEO hat, but I think one is focus on your strength. We talked already at length about outsourcing non-core functions. Yeah. So that's very important. So your resources, your time, your energy is on something else. From a product perspective, be conscious of how that product will be used. I'm thinking about B2B software as a service, applications, where you need to be aware of how your application will be used in the daily business life for your customers. Do you need to develop API to integrate with existing products? Which leads me maybe to the other point, which is once you have these, you can maybe partner with larger players who have reach and scale. And so you can sell through them, for example, from a commercial perspective. And of course, again, operations. Implement scalable processes. Today we can almost automate everything. Now we have generative AI that can be used. But again, as a co-pilot, I'm an advocate of that, not as an autopilot. Because I still think, at least at this point in time, you need the human touch to make it work properly. And of course, there's the other things about the financial health of your company, but this is obvious, and the culture, and I will never get tired to say customer focus.
Amazing, thank you. And you're saying about ensuring it's almost like sustainable growth, but how can you actually ensure sustainable growth during that process?
Yes, I mean, it's the thing I've seen with many startups is that is the lack of focus. So they do something and then but we could also do this and that. So I think for me,
spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah, and it's not about really outsourcing accounting. Yeah, it's something more fundamental, because you are testing your business model, and you will always have that feeling that I'm missing the FOMO, a bit of I'm missing out something, I'm leaving out. But at the same time, you need to get deeper, maybe in what you can do well. You might have an important customer start asking features that were not on the roadmap. They're kind of hacking your roadmap. So ensure that those features can be applied to others.
I see.
But at the same time, they are paying. I think the one thing, if there is one thing, is about focus and knowing what not to do, which is probably the most difficult question to answer, especially at that stage of the business.
Of course. Okay, thank you. And if we talk maybe about funding now, that's always a big topic of venture capitalism, private equity. People who get a large funding, people often think that business is going to succeed, and then we also know that isn't always the case. But what would you say are some of the primary sources of funding for scale-ups that you've been working with?
I mean, it depends where you are in your journey. So I tend to divide the journey in 4 or 5 stages. So at the beginning, like idea stage to solution. So I find the pain points and what I want to do. Solution to minimum viable product, which is it's not just about a product, it's also about the processes around it. Minimum viable product to actual product. So now we know what to do. Product to scale to world domination. And of course, the type of sources you need to tap into are different depending where you are in your growth. So when you start, maybe there are 2 lonely people, very expert, maybe technical expert, and in this case we have the famous 3 Fs, if you know what they refer to. So family, friends, and the fools who believe in you. But you should probably be amongst those fools. So take it, you might have to show that you believe in what you do, investing not just time and energy, but maybe a bit of your savings into it. Yeah, and then of course, and we are talking about here maybe a few tens of thousands of pounds of capital just to start. Then the team maybe start having the third person, the fourth person. Now we are in working on the MVP and maybe the product. So now we have maybe angel investors, we have micro VCs, incubators, accelerators. Yeah, so there's a lot of different sources, and then when you have to scale, to me is the most difficult part, because it's potentially easier to raise a few £100,000 or even a few £1,000,000 than $1 million. Because you are in that phase where you really need to prove yourself. It's a kind of the tipping point where things could go really wrong. And so this is I don't have a solution to this, I'm afraid. So it's really going out. That's why I think, in order for a CEO to focus on the business, I saw many CEOs say, "Oh, I can't focus on the business. I'm fundraising," which sounds a bit like a contradiction, right? Because you should actually focus to fundraise and show that the business is working. So maybe the one of the first area where to seek outside help is investor relations, and do someone who is expert in raising funds. But I would say, if apart from the various, I think if you can try to choose the type of investors, try to have a clear ideas of the type of investors you're looking for, because you might just want money. Give me your money, I will bring you a return. Or you might want someone who has some experience in the industry. Okay, maybe you want could have a seat on the board, or even not formally, but can help you, can mentor and coach you in what you do. Or maybe an industrial partner later on, where it's almost a partnership, but they invest. But I think the reason why I'm doing this, it's be wary of too much money too early, because I think if someone gives you 1 million to because you said, okay, I will do plan A and I will conquer the world, and then I want you to do plan A, you can't pivot. I give you 1 million to do plan A. It's difficult then to convince them, oh, well, really, we should do plan B. But that's my 1 million. So you might end up in difficult conversations, and it's maybe toxic relationship with your investor, which you really don't want.
Amazing, thank you. And if we move now on to a little bit more on the scaling, we talked about markets, and you said you don't want to go into too many markets, but what strategies can you use to expand into new markets if you wanted to go into them?
Yeah, I mean, you mean if you want, for example, to expand internationally, or
yes,
I mean, there is a bit of that analysis, the market and the industry, micro and macro, to do, but especially if you are small, my view is to not avoid the big bang approach, and so I think after you've gone through some thought process, say, okay, that market, that geography is interesting. Try to get there and understand how you need to adapt to the local market dynamics, to the local culture. Now you need to localize maybe the language of your products, and take into account that there are many versions of English, many versions of Spanish. Yeah, of course. So there are cultural differences, language barriers. For example, when you pick a region to expand, is it better to go, well, maybe from the UK to the US, to Australia, or maybe to Denmark? They speak English and they're here. Yeah, so it's like it really depends. Depends on many things, and of course tailor your proposition. One common pitfall I've seen is, okay, let's convert our price list into the local currency. Especially if I've seen this from Italy to the UK, and you risk in this case to undersell yourself, because it's a different market.
Of course,
with the same service, it's a different market. and so try to understand really what the local market is about.
Unless you're Uber and you just do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
The opposite of what Uber did, but that's another story.
But that's more about almost land grabbing. No? These are, and it's almost philosophical, I would say, because if you want, I'm now oversimplifying, but as to me, in the US, it's all about growth. In Europe, is all about profit.
Yeah.
It's more, or at least it's more about profit. So these companies, Uber is one, took time to turn it profitable, and they had investors ready to inject a lot of cash. Yeah, so that's a different business model. But in that case, because the business model is easy to replicate, because it's an app. The barrier to entry is getting as many customers as you can, and therefore you need to do that.
Yeah.
So that's very specific to that.
So cheap.
To that business model, you need to do that for that business model. So if you are maybe in B2B, I have a B2B background, so it's a bit different. It's difficult to get into that situation where you need to land grab basically to create a barrier to entry and to all your competitors.
Yeah, and you're talking a little bit then about how you can adapt your product to new markets. Do you have any other examples of different ways that maybe yourself or some of your clients have adapted their product, not just like you said the price differences, but really adapt their product for different markets?
Well, I think I can mention maybe what I'm doing in my current role. This is a small manufacturer producing temperature and humidity sensors. So these are very technical products, so there's not much cultural variance to it, if you want. But if you want to sell into a specific market, you need to be aware of the local regulation. So in the US, they have the UL regulation about preventing explosions. Of course, which is quite important. Or maybe in the EU now, they're introducing the CBAM. So it's about compensating emissions. So if you are importing certain type of material from outside the EU and they are selling into the EU, so you need to adapt not just your products, because of course, if you need to be compliant with the kind of technical directive, technical regulation, you need to tweak that. But that means you need to tweak your processes. The way you produce that product changes. The way you procure that product changes now with all the sustainability, the ESG regulation that are coming into play.
Okay, thank you. So now if we look at the last sort of pillar of today's podcast and focus on the future outlook and the trends, what emerging trends do you see as critical for businesses looking to scale in the next 5 to 10 years?
Some I already mentioned, but I'm afraid I'm not gonna tell you anything new, because of course we live now in a world where
the information age.
Exactly. Automation, artificial intelligence, and these are there for you to use them. I think it would be a shame not to use them. And have people doing less mundane tasks and let the machine do. But the point where I would put maybe more my attention, especially if you're more in B2C, is the ethics of AI. So is that transparent? Do you know how that algorithm came to that decision? Now, if you're denying a mortgage, or there are things you need to be
biases.
Exactly. No, the unconscious bias that you might have in the data set.
Of course.
It's really important, and with that comes data privacy, and I mentioned also sustainability. Customers expect you to be sustainable, but the moment they realize they are doing greenwashing, you're done, right? So you need to, and of course there are new regulation coming up, and so that's you need to be really conscious about it.
So it's just like the B Corp. Going around. So products now have B Corporation.
Exactly. So if you're selling a certain type of product, you kind of must be a B Corp, but because you believe in it, not because the market asks for it. So because sooner or later they will realize you don't believe in it. So that's it. And then of course, other obvious things, no, the remote and hybrid working, again, that is an opportunity because you could be potentially hire anywhere in the world, so tap into talent anywhere in the world. But do not underestimate the flip side of it.
The power of the personal touch.
That's one. That's one, because of course having a totally remote team, then you risk to have a set of people. It's difficult to make it become a team. So there are exactly. There are operational, people management issues, but also there are taxation, local regulation. Like for example, we are now trying to understand how we can move one of with my clients, one of their employees to Glasgow for 6 months. Okay, but easy. The 15th of August is a public holiday in Italy, but not in the UK.
Yeah.
The 25th is in the UK, but not in Italy. How do you manage that? Then there are a number of things. The labor law are different. The taxations are different. So there are a number of things that potentially put at risk your company, because the country where you have the team could say, okay, you're generating income now here. It's like you have an entity here, and therefore you pay corporation tax here. So there are a number of things you need to be aware of. But again, challenges and opportunity always come hand in hand.
Of course. Okay. All right. Thank you, Stefano. So the last bit I want to focus on is more advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Let's say if I wanted to start up Ben's Smoothies, I think that was the name we agreed on. But what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are just starting out?
I think Oscar Wilde said experience is the name we give to our mistakes.
Yeah.
So let's see if you can learn from someone else's mistake. And I think the first piece of advice is, you don't feel compelled to conquer the world tomorrow. So maybe you have a job. Yep. I don't know. You have a partner. Discuss with your partner when might the right moment be to to take the plunge.
Of course, like a mortgage.
Exactly. Do your cash flow analysis and project that and see. Okay, I can do it now. Yeah,
definitely.
Don't wait too long, but don't rush into it. I think that's. I personally, I think I waited for too long. Because I was in kind of comfort zone. Yeah. It shouldn't be that.
But I guess you can't really tell that until later, right? And
and
you're like, I should have moved quicker.
Of course.
But in that moment, you might have thought you were going too fast, or you.
Yeah, but I would say either way, speak to your stakeholders, i.e., your partner usually, because your closest family are the people who will get hit sooner and harder. By what you're going to do. So speak to them. Yeah. Okay. Take what I call the superhero test on yourself.
Okay.
No, you're not Wonder Woman or Superman if you're a DC Comics fan, or you're not Hulk and Captain Marvel or Captain Marvel. But again, I spoke with some founders whose point of view was, I can do this. It just changes the number of weekends I spend on it. No, weekends are important. These will take a toll sooner or later. Don't burn out yourself. Yeah. So try to work decent hours. Okay, the hours will be long.
Yep.
But try to work decent hours. Yeah. And again, I think I mentioned seek external help with non-core functions as soon as you can. Okay. And that thought process, that business plan that you made, keep it always in check, challenge it, and adapt. I call that kind of strategy as you go. So so I kind of you cannot afford to have a kind of deliberate strategy, because the world changes too fast for you. But at the same time, you are small enough to adapt. So you can get I call it emerging strategy. So you can get feedback and adapt on the go. Yeah, that's definitely.
I think adapting is one of those parts you see that's so core to any business, because if you're not going to adapt and just stay in your lane, we've seen countless companies, Blockbuster,
Yes.
Kodak, they all just went, no, we're fine in our lane. They don't adapt soon enough, and then they get wiped out.
Exactly.
So like you said, strategy on the go, continuously changing your business plan.
So it's not the survival of the fitness, it's the survival of the adaptable.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the fittest. Yeah, but and then of course you won't be surprised to hear stay connected to your customers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a recurring theme. And again, take into account that you will feel lonely. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something to take into account.
I see. So, it's very much uphill battle, can be lonely, but if you do it correctly.
Yeah, with the right people, surround yourself with the right people. Yeah. And don't forget your inner family and friends.
Of course.
They could support you, maybe not financially, but they could support you all for all the rest.
Yeah, and speaking about financially as well, if you're working with investors, do you have any, let's say, advice for someone who's starting a business, how to work with their investors? And I know it does depend, like you said, on that relationship, but there must be some tips you can provide.
Yeah, I mean, I would reinforce what I said earlier about try to find as much as you can the right type of investor. Have a clear idea what type of investor you want.
Of course.
And if they want to help you and come on board, you would not only get some money, but also free coaching and mentoring.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe people with functional expertise or industry expertise who can really help you maybe set up the first team. So don't be afraid of getting them involved in the business. Keep them constantly updated, because remember, plan A might fail and you might want to pivot, so they need to be ready for that. No, they must see that coming. It cannot be something that suddenly one day you say, no, there's plan B now. Yeah, so that's it's a lot. You know what I learned is when you are in a startup, it's a lot about managing emotions. It's not just the business, because you want to conquer the world. Your partner doesn't. You cannot delegate, and the communication with investors maybe is a bit. So it's all about managing that a lot about managing the soft skills. And managing the emotion that will always be, you cannot suppress the emotion, but it's a lot about managing emotions. Yes.
That's it. Thank you. So I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Stefano, for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
And the recording for this podcast, webinar, you name it, will be available soon. Thank you.